Satsang. Today we're going to cover 90.2, and last time was 90.1. So if you have missed it, it would be a good idea to go back to it before listening to this one. We're covering the 40 verses of Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi. Okay, let's go right into it. Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi states here, it says, all schools of thought postulate the fundamental triad, God, soul, and world. Although all three are manifestations of the One, the belief that the three remain eternally three lasts only as long as the I or ego lasts. When the ego dies, we remain in one's own state, and that's best. Okay, now, this is quite a powerful statement. World, God, soul. We know, for example, that, that most of the teachings, like, on the internet or whatever courses, they're always given around consciousness. Very few are focused on the pure awareness. Okay? So we're going to see that many of the old ideas and beliefs that we've had have to go through quite a shift. So, for example, when we talk about God, how many people believe in God? 9 out of 10 people believe in God. And if not, they say, oh, there's always something there. I believe in there's some power there. So everybody, more or less, over 95% of the population believe in some God. Okay. Now this belief is one of the great deterrents of realization. That as long as you believe in God, I know this sounds a little weird here, but as long as you believe in the word God, okay, you cut off any realization from happening. One, because you think of it as an outside force and separate from you. And also, another thing too, is that relies on the mind seeing it as an object, or rather as a perception, as an idea. And as long as you have an idea of God, it cannot be it, it's not possible. The word soul is also used very often in many teachings. And that also presupposes that there is an individual soul. That person is an individual. Okay? And then there is world. And most people who believe in the world, most people do, they think that the world is out there. You see? Now all that shifts and changes when we wake up to the truth. So waking up and reading also Ramana Maharshi's teaching is the reverse of how we see things. For example, you're a human being. The first thing you're accustomed to is seeing yourself as a human, and you forget the being. But in truth, you are being. The human is a role you are playing for evolution's sake, for the movement. This is love, unconditional love itself, trying to draw us home into its bosom, into its ecstasy, into its heaven. You see? And the only way to do that is by having so-called tools, and everything is so-called because reality is something else. Okay, evolution is a process that we seem to go through to realize the optimum reality. So everything is reversed. For example, take the word soul. Now, the word soul actually refers to presence. Everybody is a presence. But what is presence? Feel it out. You see? Many people think of your presence itself, think of it as me, as myself. But presence, if you really meditate and go deep and begin to feel it, is that presence seems to be yours, but you see, in 7 billion humans on this earth, there's only one being, and there's only one awareness. And it's shared by all 7 billion people. So the question is, how is it that I can feel the oneness with other people, yet I cannot feel their thoughts, I cannot feel what they feel, etc., etc.? And somebody asked that question, so I had to bring you to explore it later on. Okay, so we have to go into that. Okay, and also world, you see, everything we think it's outside of us. You know, we think God is out there, we think the world is out there. And so what happens here with these beliefs is that we become so small in looking at reality that we cannot break free because we're seeing things in reverse. There are 3 stages that lead to awakening, and these are quite well known. There's no big deal about them. First, you see everything is outside of you. Okay? And then, when you start learning and growing and expanding, you enter another stage. So it's kind of like a semi-awakening, when you begin to see that everything is within you. Everything. What a person says, what you see is going on, everything you feel in here. Okay, everything is within. And then we reach the 3rd stage, which is called awakening. There is no inside or outside. There is only, and listen to this, there is only God. See, there's nothing outside of God. So God really represents all of us, all humanity. Everything is God itself, one God, one being. Okay? Now, I'd like you to feel this so that when we answer some of these questions, we'll begin to see why the confusion exists. We reverse. As a matter of fact, let's start with the first question. Would you like to read it? No? It's this one here.
I do get confused when I hear that you have no little choice. It is already written. And I seem to flip-flop between wanting to do the mind game of tweaking the way I think so that my life may seem better and surrendering to what is. But then I seem to not have any impetus to do anything.
Okay. This is very common. Remember how we reverse everything, I said at the beginning? You know, one of the most beautiful things is when you realize that your life, your script is already written. Okay? Yet it frightens most people, and they say, well, if it's already written and I don't know about it and I don't know what the future holds, it scares me. And what's the point of doing anything? And it takes away all motivation, it takes away all energy, etc., etc. Because okay, so let's talk about the script now before we talk about the choices. You know, people think that the script being already written, God wrote the script. And well, who wrote the script really?
Life itself.
Life itself, we did. Okay? Because everything that you're going through, you've already gone through. And the next life, you'll be going through the same thing. We keep repeating the same thing over and over again. When will it change? When will it stop? When we begin to realize that any suffer that we go through, any suffering that's going is karmic. So most of what we call what has been written is what we haven't learned from the past life, or maybe many, many lives before. Okay? So therefore, anything that we haven't learned, they have to repeat. because that repetition is what we need to learn from. You see? And what are we learning? What do we learn when we don't repeat a mistake, when we don't repeat something that's going to cause an accident? It's because nothing happens by chance, you see?
We expand. We expand.
We expand, yeah. Ramana Maharshi incidentally said, you know, everything is predetermined. Even Einstein said it. Course in Miracles says the script is already written, and I'm using the phrase of the Course. You know, Ramana Maharshi's teaching and the Course in Miracles are just like this. There's very close. But the words are totally different when you study them. Okay, yeah.
What is being learned is our separation from our separating through mind, thought, of the natural, innate, pure flow of life itself, and it is its attempt to have us fall back into its bosom, so to speak, and be taken, rather than to carve out.
Mm-hmm. Right. In other words, we do not really control, but we allow. Okay? So we learn from a lesson by forgiveness. Okay? When, as a matter of fact, there was something that Course in Miracles covered, which was so beautiful. And I think Gary Renard said it, and he said that whenever you forgive certain things, you know, somebody hurt you, somebody took advantage of you, instead of wanting to pay them back, instead of getting revenge or resentment, you forgive. The moment you forgive, you see, you collapse time in your favor. Okay, you know, what that means is this. Suppose you are going through a lifetime and all of a sudden you're just crossing the street and the car just runs across and it leaves you maimed for the rest of your life, you know, or breaks your legs or whatever. Something drastic happens. It changes your whole life. Okay? Now you might say, was that an accident? Well, you see, when we study how life is, we find there are no accidents. Nothing happens by accident. So whatever happens is because somehow or other you needed that moment to learn certain lessons. Now, suppose you start hating the driver of that car, and you want to sue them, you want to break them down, blah, 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 go on, you haven't learned your lesson. So next lifetime, so you pass away suffering the whole lifetime, and then you pass away, and next lifetime it might happen again in another form. Same thing, because you haven't learned what you needed to learn. So, but when people hear, oh, my life is already written, what's the point of doing anything? My goodness, yeah, there's a lot to do. Because this means that you have to allow every moment to happen as it is, and then see it as a learned lesson. For example, I've got people, they say, oh, I go to my office and nobody likes me and everybody hates me, and I have neighbors, they're fighting with them all the time. What's wrong with people? There's nothing wrong with people, but you are creating the situation. You are drawing it to you because this is what you need to learn. Because somehow or other, either there's a lot of unresolved anger in you, or you could have had it from a previous life which you still haven't learned from. So now it's being paid back. For example, I've been getting a lot of emails over and over and over again, and I was thinking of actually writing a booklet about it because it happens so often. And I call it Karmic Mothers. And I think I told you about that. Yeah, and this is happening all the time. I got a stack of mail from women who are complaining against their mother. They're treated so badly by their mother. They're always fighting and bickering, you know. So one woman said to me, I hate Christmas even though I love it so much. But I hate it because that means I have to spend time with my mother. So what is this mother karma? You see, because it is mother karma. What happens is that if mother treats you this way in this lifetime, is because you treated her in a past life when you were her mother. Got it? Because we learn by shifting roles, okay? In the same way, I had a young man come to me, and he was gay, and his parents almost just threw him out of the house when they found out he was gay, and he was not willing to overcome the habit, as if he could help it. Even when he was a kid, he played with toys, and like a little girl. So anyway, so he said to me, so I was very, very sympathetic towards him, because I felt what he could be going through. But what was so interesting is that the moment he lied down on my bed and I had him completely relaxed, he started talking being a woman. You see, he was completely woman. He was talking about the skirt and the shoes that he had and everything else somewhere in England. And he was a woman. So this, in other words, his past life was a woman, and now he's born in a man's body, but the woman is still in him. You see? So this is what it means. The script is written. Why people don't have tolerance about sexual preferences or about mother-daughter relationships or whatever, whatever you can think of. Okay, the reason we don't have is because we have no understanding of the big picture. That nothing happens by chance. We're constantly learning how we need to be moment to moment. And forgiveness, the Course in Miracles says forgiveness is the direct way to do it. Now, another one too, which this woman talked about, and to know, incidentally, to begin to know what is happening, like, let's say, I'm sticking with this script, because it just came to me. Let's say your script is calling for your mind to be very busy, very negative. For no reason at all, you're going through a deep depression, you can't get over it, and this keeps repeating over and over again. Okay? If you start to forgive it and allow it and have only compassion for yourself, you'll find it will change. And it will change your environment, it will change your whole life. So this is why when I said to this woman, I said, it's the most beautiful thing to know that your script is written. Because now, you might not have direct control over it, but you have control by forgiving, through allowing, you see. Another one is choice. You see, in truth, there is no choice. Truth is choiceless. Truth is choiceless. You hear that? So the point is, who in his right mind is going to choose falsehood on purpose? Okay? You might say many people do. Yes, because they're not in their right mind, according to the Course. They are in a dysfunctional type of perception. In the same way, you have no choice but to love. Love is choiceless. Your only choice is love. There is no other choice. But you might not choose that. You see? You might choose being negative, getting your own way. You don't have compassion. If you have dealings with a person, for example, and it doesn't turn out the way you wanted it, then you try to control the situation. So what you're doing is choosing fear instead of love. But the truth tells you, truth is choiceless. You have no choice but to choose love, because it's the only thing that works. Only love works. But you might say, but Burt, how can you say you have no choice if you've chosen fear? But you haven't chosen it voluntarily. You have chosen it hypnotically. You've chosen it like a robot. You are reacting, in other words, in a dream state. You see what I mean? So when you choose negative, you don't say, oh, I think I'm going to be negative. You see, or I think I'm going to be depressed now. No, you don't. You don't choose that. They choose you because you are not choosing love. Got it? Every time you don't choose love, negativity enters your life automatically. So all we have to do is be aware that if you are negative, that's okay. You see? Because negative is not necessarily wrong if you see the oneness with love. Because everything is a call for love. Everything. So here we are, we have these two laws. The script is written, and you have no choice. Truth, you have no choice. Okay? And then you think, oh, I'm stuck? No, not at all. You see the beauty of both? Okay? So this is the point to make. Now there's another email here which I find interesting, and which also will help us to go even a little deeper, and maybe we can all cover this too. Could you? Just wherever.
Here's what I don't understand. I have trouble understanding how everyone else is me. I get how when I interact with another person, I'm really interacting with myself because all I experience is my mind's subjective interpretation of that person. But I don't understand how that person is me. I understand that underneath the illusion each person is identical, but if each one of us is having a different subjective experience of the world at the same time, how are we the same? I know I'm getting caught up on listening to my mind, but it's hard for me to understand how I can be something that I can't experience. For example, if there is no separation between me and you, why can't I hear your thoughts or see the world through your eyes? I don't believe that I am my body, but it feels like my experience is constrained to what this body can perceive. Any advice on how I can understand that everyone is me?
Okay. Feel it.
He hasn't, or she hasn't been able to get outside of the confining bubble that they identify with.
When she says me, she refers to her persona, doesn't she?
Yes, the me she speaks of is the bubble in which she lives.
Separate.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the me that she seeks through this opening question is that which is not confined or identified with, or can even be understood in the way she's trying to understand it. The being experience of being presence, being awareness, being now needs to penetrate the bubble.
Yes, yes. Also, this is where the reason I just want to explore it, because consciousness and awareness, people still confine the two.
Yes.
Okay, and she thinks that, well, why aren't I aware? Awareness is the same, but not what you're aware of. Awareness recognizes itself, because the realization of awareness means awareness sees itself. But it's not a thought, it's not a feeling, it's not an emotion, it's not anything that you can name. It just is awareness. Okay? Well, the moment you confine it to something, you are taking it back to consciousness. But consciousness is just like the waves of the ocean. Picture the ocean. It's one ocean. Okay? On the surface there are billions of waves. Each wave is unique, separate, and individual. You see? And but they're all the same water. You see, but one wave doesn't say, why can't I understand this bigger wave than me. Why is it so big and I am not, type of thing. Why is it doesn't go into that. See what I mean? Because that is only with consciousness, not the awareness, that makes up the whole ocean.
That's
Okay, do you get that?
that's such a key, because we are trained to live in duality, and when we even say the word awareness, the first thing that usually comes is aware of what?
Aware of what? that is
we're
why
jigger
it is,
right there.
Oh, thank you. You said it so nicely. See, this is it. Every time I talk about awareness, people look at me and says, "Why are you making so much fuss over it, Burt? I understand. And then they ask me the next question. I know they didn't understand. And I just don't know how to bring it about. See, awareness is your very nature. It is your very being. Okay? And it is pure. It is unconditional love. And it has nothing to do with what you're aware of. But the moment you become aware of something, the awareness has created a thought out of itself, just like a spider weaves a web from itself. But the awareness is untinged, is untouched. You see, it's always pure. Awareness always is. See, Bhagavan reached pure awareness, pure being. Jesus did. You see, very few people ever do. That's the fully enlightened state where ego doesn't exist at all. Right? So we're not talking about consciousness, and people still confuse. I keep getting emails all the time. Confusion between consciousness and awareness. And no matter what I say, they write me back and they still don't get it. Okay? Because awareness, it has no words. You're aware, aren't you aware right now?
Yeah.
But if you were to just be here, what are you right now?
Beingness.
Being aware. That's it. Now take away that awareness at the moment. Take away awareness. You can't, of course, but let's assume. Let's assume. Take away awareness. What's left?
The body.
No.
Perception.
I'm sorry, but no.
Just perception.
How can perception remain if you take away awareness? Awareness always comes first. You cannot perceive something unless you're aware of it. Perception is created by awareness. Awareness does not create perception. From awareness comes perception.
Yeah.
You see, you cannot perceive unless you're aware. Got it?
Yeah.
Awareness always comes first. Let's say you make a decision. Boom, boom, just like that. Okay? You make it an immediate decision in the moment. Okay, what came first? The decision or the awareness?
The awareness.
Always, because without awareness, there is no one to decide anything. There's no, when I say there's no one, I mean it literally. There's no body either. There's no form. There's no one existing known as Matt. You see, if you weren't aware, you did not exist, period. Because when we talk about existence, we're talking about pure awareness. Not existing things. Existing things are manifestations of the unmanifest. When you look around the world, you see manifestations. Everything is a manifestation. Okay? But where did that manifestation come from? From the unmanifest. What is unmanifest? That which is nothing, void, beginningless, endless. It has no way that you can think about it, but it gives ability to think. There's no way you can understand it, but that which gives understanding. Okay? But it is there in the background. Oh, this is one way to explain awareness and consciousness. You go to a movie theater, and the screen comes down. The screen is blank. The screen is right there. Nothing. Okay? And then all of a sudden the movie starts playing with the projector from the back. And you see a war picture. People are getting killed. All that action, fire, you know, screaming, yelling, oh my God, but nothing is happening to the screen. Do you understand? Everything is being seen, you identify with everything, that's consciousness. Consciousness. Everything that is happening is consciousness. But the reason it can happen on that screen and you can see it is because there is a screen, which is awareness. Are you with me? Okay.
So the individual interpretation is your consciousness.
The individual
Of
interpretation
what's
is
going on.
consciousness. Everything that you practically hear on the internet, everything that you read, every interview, every teaching, whether it's EFT or whatever, it's all based on consciousness. Healing, modalities of healing, everything is about consciousness. Okay. The reason we cannot talk about awareness that is so hard because the mind can't conceive awareness without aware of something.
I think that it is, as I said,
That's why self-recognizing. Okay.
it's like a smell rather than a thing in that it cannot be captured, as it were. I mean, even a smell can be captured, but it needs to be pierced by something besides the mind. It needs to be expanded to a knowing so that our own being God can recognize it, and then we can know it by recognizing itself, because there is no separation. That is what we are expanding for. That is what we are. That is what we seek. That is home.
This is awareness. You see, this is it too. Awareness is everything that we are seeking all the time, but it itself is nothing, but it is the nothingness which is the answer.
Yes.
You see, that's why all the teachings say, "Be still and know I am God." She said, Eckhart Tolle said something beautiful in his book, The Power of Now. He said, silence is itself the answer. But how many people have actually got that? Silence itself.
It's almost like that there's something more than silence. It's almost like it's the essence of silence. Like there's something very...
No, silence is nothing. See, for example, if this is where words become so inept. Yes. When I had this conflicted relationship and I went to the bathroom and I cried, actually, he says, "Please God, help me, I don't know anything anymore, this is happening." And all of a sudden, the feeling came so strong, I call it the Holy Spirit or Bhagavan, whatever, is that there is no answer. We think there are answers. Answers are words. Answers are simply to lead you from here to there, to there, to there, deeper and deeper and deeper. You're going around in circles, but there are no answers. There's only silence. The moment you experience silence, it means there's no thought, nothing. You reach a moment of absolute quietude. That is the answer. When I came out of the bathroom, and I don't know whether it was Burt at that moment or not, but I don't think that's important. Because sometimes when you disappear out of love, you just feel so good. When you feel good, you're not there. You're just a presence. And but at that moment, everything was so clear. Like, I had a man very, very physical, and I told him to go and sit by the beach and watch dawn break in the morning, and he did for half an hour. And after it occurred to him, he says, when I reached that quiet, he said, the problems were still there, and then he stopped. They're there only in my mind when I think about them. But when I reached that silence, there was nothing. And it was that nothing that made him so calm, so pure, so loving. His wife took him back. He went back to the job, and he was nicer to the kids, and his violence was gone. It took that little, that grace of entering silence. And this is why meditation, people can meditate for many, many years and never enter silence. And the point is to reach the point where you absolutely disappear. And when you disappear, where there is no ego at all, at that moment you are divine. You are perfect. Nothing is missing.
I think that one of the misconceptions about meditation is that people believe they are doing meditation and the tool gets stuck in the way, like, I'm a great meditator. But meditation with not the act, but the experience is what life is. It is not an attribute or an attainment. It is a discovery of what always was, that was overlaid with all the other...
And the reason the experience is itself the answer is because there is no experiencer.
Yes, that's when that disappears.
Otherwise you identify with that. Right. That's the pure awareness, that's a pure love, pure unconditional love. Yeah. And that is something that the mind cannot grasp. But you know, by doing what we do, hopefully by the grace of Bhagavan, is that something sparks. You listen to this and you say, oh, yeah, awareness of awareness. That is the key. The moment you glimpse that, everything starts becoming so clear. Everything. Like did you play dominoes and you put them one against the other and then you drop one and it just goes, okay. This is what could happen. The moment you understand awareness of awareness, all of a sudden the dominoes all drop and you see the whole thing so clear. It gives so picture. But it is not something you can do. It is something that you allow, you see, to happen. So this is why what I found these letters interesting, these emails interesting, and thank you for really sharing what you did. Yeah. So whenever confusion arises, people always go back to consciousness. You see, consciousness is doing everything, and in the world, everything is being done by consciousness. Everything. But the moment you awaken, which is non-duality, there is no duality, you begin to realize there's only God. There's nothing but God. What we think we are doing, what we think is happening, is simply the act of, it's God itself. Because God is pure awareness, pure being, the eternal, unchanging truth. You see?
A paradox is that it's everywhere, and in everything, you know, it's a paradoxical, because probably through our deep sense of inferiority we think we need to strive.
Yes.
And that
we need to do.
We need to prove, we need to, and that's momentum keeps us out of that center of who we are.
Right, and that center, that's beautiful, that center is the awareness itself.
Yeah.
And from it comes everything else. Just like, you know, you see the prism of light, you know, the beautiful rainbow, all different colors, but it all comes from light. And light has no color. But it all comes from that. So that's what pure awareness is. It is so pure. And everything that we experience manifests from it, but it is not it. It remains untouched. You were going to ask something?
I just wanted to go back a bit to where I responded about the body, and because you had asked, what are we without awareness?
Yes, what are we without awareness?
So what I experienced in that question was the awareness drops away, you'd be without it, therefore you would drop into the physical body.
No,
into the mind, into,
but they just feel,
like how could you not?
But if you go straight into the physical body without awareness, how can the body sustain itself? How can it survive?
Well, because the humanness of the body, the heart still goes without awareness. I mean, that's what most of our world is about, is it not?
No, without awareness, nothing can exist.
But I think that maybe I'm not understanding the way you're using awareness. Are you meaning?
I'm not using
No,
awareness.
Is it your,
what awareness
is it your the experience of spirit?
Spirit
Yes.
and awareness are both the same.
Yeah.
We can use the word spirit.
Okay.
If you realize there is no spirit in you, where is Matt?
Well, in the same way, if you recognize, you know, the other way, the opposite of that, if you recognize there is no human in you. I mean,
No.
To me,
it's
the human is
totally
the
different.
body, right?
The human is a shadow. The human is a byproduct
But
of the energy of consciousness appears as the body. It manifests as the body. But the consciousness can do the work of, not do the work of pure awareness, but it is pure awareness that consciousness is possible. Consciousness then appears as a human form. But if you ask yourself, what am I? And the only thing that you can actually be is, I am, you said it once so beautifully, so I'm just looking, which is awareness. You see? But if you take that looker away, he never existed. It's not possible.
Well, oh, yeah, okay, I hear what you're saying, but I guess I'm comparing that to someone who is not aware. Okay, let's do that. So if let's say I'm not aware, am I not just the eyes seeing and the brain that maps
That's consciousness.
in my head?
That's consciousness.
Because that's what the brain does. It just
Yeah.
does. It has its function in the
Yeah.
physical body.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's conscious, but it's sure not awareness. So that's what I meant.
That's
like
consciousness,
you
yeah.
drop back into the body.
But everything is working
function.
from conscious. Everything comes from consciousness, from awareness.
The paradox that I think might join this is that we think of duality, this or that, but awareness is not this or that. Awareness is both this and that, and beyond this and
it's
that.
both.
Yeah. Okay. Let me read you back, because this is why these teachings of Bhagavan are so simple and yet we miss them. Okay. Let's take the first one, the very first one that we cited last 2 weeks. Okay. The truth is awareness. Without awareness of reality, can reality exist? Because this awareness, reality, itself free from thought, exists as the source of all thoughts, it is called heart. But this is the first verse. But the point here is, can awareness exist? Sorry. Can reality exist without awareness? No, there'll be nothing, absolutely nothing.
Nothing going on.
Not only nothing not going on, it never existed, never is. See, without awareness there can be no possibility. You see, the mind cannot understand this, okay, because awareness is.
Awareness is the isness that is before, after, and has no birth and no death. So it is more than the building blocks of everything. It can't be even conceived as that, which sounds pretty incredible. So there can be no without it, because that is fathomless, because it is the emptiness that you think that would be itself is that.
That's right.
There can
That's
be
right.
no separation.
There can
You
be no
cannot-
separation.
You cannot polarize that.
That's right.
And we try to understand by polarizing, that's how we see, that's how the mind sees. But this cannot be polarized.
Yes, it cannot.
So that kind of messes up our normal thinking.
That's why. That's why, you see, by listening to this, like what I used to do, many years ago, I used to have something very deep, maybe from Bhagavan or whatever, and I would hear it over and over and over and over until something says, aha, okay? It cannot come from the mind. You cannot think it. So Bhagavan said that existence cannot exist without awareness, because awareness is what makes things seem to exist. You see, and then when they exist, we call them consciousness. But the awareness not only is, but nothing. There's no possibility of awareness not being anywhere.
So it's like God is. It's the isness that is God.
Yeah.
Like it's just.
Yeah.
Is.
God is
Awareness
is God.
is.
Awareness is. So God is awareness itself. You see? So therefore it is pure, it is perfect, it is unconditional love, because truth is choiceless and truth is love. So when we wake up, what do we wake up to? Wake up to the fact that there's only God, there's only love. You see? There is nothing else. There's never been anything else. And we thought, oh my God, there was this religion and those beliefs and those ideas, and there was a world and there was a soul. Nothing. There's only that. And that is the peace of being. This is what the Course in Miracles is trying to say. And it opens up and it says, the beginning page, the real can never be threatened. The real cannot be threatened. The unreal never existed.
Nothing real can be threatened.
Nothing real can be threatened.
Nothing.
Unreal exists.
Therein lies the peace
That,
of God.
therein lies the peace of God. That is so beautiful. You see, now the real is what we call pure awareness. Okay, and that is the only thing that appears. Now you might say, but Burt, what about the consciousness of the world? The consciousness, this is just an appearance of this truth. See, when we enter heaven, okay, we experience moments of heaven, we experience tremendous silence. The silence is called heaven. We must have had an experience where you felt so incredibly good, but there's no way that you can pinpoint it, that you can describe it. That, it's so euphoric. I experienced something so beautiful at Christmas time, and I think because I got up and all of a sudden I had this feeling of unconditional love. I'm so happy to know that there are so many people now waking up and going to celebrate Christmas, and I wasn't thinking, oh, I'm not getting anything. See, for a moment I forgot about Burt. And because I forgot about Burt, and at that moment I wasn't thinking about this, because it happened, I went for a little walk, run type of thing. I came back and I sat in this chair, and it was so high. It was so high. But that highness had nothing to do with what I did or didn't do. It had nothing to do with thinking. It's because for some moment the grace came when I was happy because people are going to are celebrating Christmas. I didn't care about me because me wasn't there. You see? So there was this unconditional love for a moment, and in that moment I experienced absolute heaven. You see, it didn't last, unfortunately, but that's another story. So, because if it were to stay there all the time, I would be Bhagavan. He's there all the time. He was there in that state all the time. So so this pure awareness is the divine aspect, is the spark from which everything comes. It is the Christ essence. See, everything comes from it. But it itself cannot be understood by the mind. So when people teach, they teach the lower modifications of consciousness, emotional love, loving another person, things like this, which is still beautiful. But when we talk about pure awareness, we're talking non-duality, and therefore there is only that. And when that is pure, if we were not evolved enough to even experience it, I don't think we could maintain the body because the energy would be too high. You see, the ecstasy, the joy would be so powerful. You see, we can only sustain it for a short period of time. Gary Renard was talking about Disappearance of the Universe. Did you ever read the book, Disappearance of the Universe? Yeah. Anyway, it's quite a book. And he was talking about it, and he said he experienced oneness. And then from then on, because he was very sexual, he always talks about sex. And when his teachers appeared to him, he says, well, do I have to give up sex and everything else? But after he experienced this, he said, oh my goodness, this is chicken feed compared to... You know, sex is chicken feed compared
to the experience.
To the experience, yeah. So...
a paradoxical thing again in that because it includes everything, it is not that you have to be thoughtless to experience it. It is everywhere to be experienced.
Yes, because everything comes from it.
Because everything comes from it. So it's a matter of not identifying with the thoughts or with the projections, or it's not that you don't have to stop doing all that in order to have it. It's always there.
It's always there. It's always there.
It's just that you have to kind of see through it, that you're not identifying with the thought, you're actually identifying with the very essence of everything, including thought.
Yes.
And that's...
Well, that's you see? Because that itself, the isness, everything that you experience, everything comes from it. But it is not it. You see, so you can love everything because that is the ultimate love. The ultimate love is that silence, is that nothingness. Buddha called it nirvana. You see? So now, when we read this again, okay, and we'll finish off by reading it again. And I'm hoping that as you listen to this once more, it will make sense. Oh, here. All schools of thought postulate the fundamental triad, God, soul, and world. Although all three are manifestations of the One, which is of course awareness, the belief that the three remain eternally three lasts only as long as the I or ego lasts. To destroy the ego and remain in one's own state is best. Now, when Bhagavan uses word like destroy, I mean it's just a strong word, but you don't destroy anything. You see it for what it is. Yeah. And the moment you understand that everything is awareness, everything comes from awareness. Everything appears because of awareness, and yet awareness itself is nothing. It's self-recognizing, you see. And the moment we get that, things begin to come very, very clear. There's a shift in our consciousness automatically, you see. Because the moment it happens, the shift, what it does, is that we see everything is one. Everything is done by God. Oneness to oneness, there's only one to one. And yet there isn't one to one, there's only oneness, doing everything. So the moment that is very clear, you will see there is no good or bad, right or wrong, anything done, anything to you or anything. Everything is just all dualities just melt. Because now you've touched upon the divine essence. You see, very, very few people ever understand the divine essence because it goes beyond psychology, beyond philosophy. And it is only lately that people are beginning to understand it. When a lot of scientists kept saying there's a one unified principle, everything is just one. non-duality, oneness. So when we say, as long as you believe in God, you'll never discover God. But when you see that everything is just a belief, and you enter silence, then you see that there was nothing else but God. Namaste.